Flight Sim Deck. Today we're unboxing the EVGA Geforce GTX 1080 Ti Founders Edition. I was finally able to get my hands on one after they were sold out for a very long time. They just came out a few weeks ago, so no surprise. But yeah, we're going to do an unboxing and then a little bit of a benchmark test in Prepar3D version 3.4. So let's check out the contents in the box here. First, you get a few things here. You get the 6-pin and the 8-pin connectors. They supply those to you. This is the 6-pin. That was the 8-pin I put down first. And then you get the DVI to DisplayPort converter. This comes in handy if you do not have a HDMI or DisplayPort on your monitor. You can just use one of those. And then of course you get the manuals and some stickers here that say enthusiast build or built, and there's the manual. So let's get in here and check out the card itself. Almost pretty similar to the Titan X in design, almost, just not as black. Titan X was completely black. This has some nice silver to it. And let's see what we have in here. There's the 8 pins on the top. And then here are the display ports. Just going to pull these off. I think you get one HDMI, 3 DisplayPort. But just don't worry if you have a VGA monitor or DVI, don't worry, you can still use this card. And I'm going to show you, actually, I have a couple of cables over here. I'm going to be using VGA and DVI. My 40-inch monitor / TV uses VGA. Picked this up on eBay for just a couple bucks. You can get these from anywhere from like $2 to $5 on eBay, and yeah, you just plug in there, and then the other side, of course, goes in there. So don't worry if you don't have that. Pick those up. Anyways, nice looking card, solid. Can't wait to get it into the computer and start trying it out. So I have it installed now. They'll see here. I have it. It's up at the top under my rig, Geforce GTX 1080 Ti. I'm also using the 4790K at 4.2 gigahertz, and I have 16 gigs of 21 megahertz RAM. So that'll be the settings that'll be running with the graphics card. Sometimes the CPU can bottleneck the graphics card, so that's one thing to keep in mind. You may get different performance just based off the CPU that you are running. Now when it comes to GPU boss, the 1080 Ti only beats the Titan X by a very, very slight margin. So, you know, we're just going to see how much it beats it out. We're going to be comparing it to the Titan X Maxwell, which I have in my computer now. So this is my standard profile that I would use in Prepar3D. Right now we're just going to see how the new card handles this. Right now it's staying above 30 frames per second, averaging about 40. The frames per second counter is up there in the top right corner. Sorry, it's very small, but I will kind of try to let you know what's going on with that. Staying within about 38 to 40, and pretty good. Like I said, we're not going to see too much of a difference between this and the Titan X until you get to the higher profile. But it should be interesting to see. Now, I do recommend that, like in my case, I am selling my Titan X to basically pay for this card. If you sell your Titan X now, you will see a slight, tiny improvement in this card. But it's better to unload your Titan X now before the value goes down. People are going to quit buying those cards. No one's going to pay $1,200 or $900 for a Titan X card when they can get a card that is slightly better or almost the same for $700. So if you'd like to download my settings, head over to theflightsimdeck.com. I have a low settings, medium settings, and high settings profile. The low and medium will be used in this video, and you can just simply click on it and it'll take you over to Dropbox. And you'll see that you can click these three dots right here and download it and install it to your sim and use the exact settings that I'm using today. So on this page I also have some screenshots. This is my basic profile that I use. I switch between the three depending on the situations, weather, scenery, and all that. And yeah. So this is the first settings profile we're going to run. It is my low settings, and we're going to start there and see what kind of frames we can get between the two cards with those. So on the left is the Titan X Maxwell, and on the right is the 1080 Ti. Right now they're both staying at about 40. I think you're going to see pretty similar performance here until we get to the high settings, like I said. And back to the Titan X thing, yes, if you are going to sell it for this card, I would sell it now. I think you can get probably just about close to the entire cost of the 1080 Ti if you sell your Titan X. You might lose $100 or so, but that value will be going down. People will not be paying as much for the Titan X fairly soon because of the price of this card. A lot of people just bought a Titan X, the latest one, the Pascal, and I'd probably stay with that card for now, unless you paid $1,200, then which you probably did, and you might want to try to sell that to get this card. But again, you're not going to get too big of a increase, you know. But if you can make the money back, the full $700, then you'll be good. Get this card. Here's the lean view. We're going to be doing this all the way through. We're going to go to the medium settings next, and we'll do the same two views. Right now, the 1080 is running a little more stable. It's jumping around less with the frames per second. And that's one thing I noticed with it, is it's slightly more stable. A little bit less rubber banding. It still has a little bit of that, but I think for the most part it stays consistent with the frame rate. They're both running at 60 right now. Only dropping to about 59 or so here and there. The 1080 Ti is actually getting up to 61 at some point. So is the Titan X2. But still very similar, very close, just looks a little bit smoother. If you stare at the scenery bottom right, like the farming, you can kind of notice a little bit smoother rendering in that area. Now this is new Orbx Innsbruck that I'm using. And this will be the medium settings that we're running next. These were also the settings you saw on the first clip I showed when we had the cockpit view. So we're going to see how these do. Right now, still both maintaining 40. But like I said, new Orbx Innsbruck is the airport we're using today. It's a brand new airport, just came out with a brand new video card, so I thought it would be great to try these both. And this is also the PMDG 737-800 that we're using on this test. Still maintaining 40. The Titan X just dropped to 32, back up to 40. And so the 1080 Ti dropped to 33, 34, and then up to 40. So they're kind of still dropping around the same areas, but the Titan X is dropping just 1 or 2 frames more. So it's interesting how they do that. Like the Titan X just dropped to 23 while the 1080 dropped to 32. So it seems like the Titan X takes larger dips in between the frame rates. Not for long, just here and there, which causes some rubber banding. But I'm going to have to give it to the 1080 on this one. Now back onto the wing view. Getting 60 frames per second, while the Titan X is getting 50 at the moment, which is that's a pretty big leap. That's 10 frames per second right there. Titan X is still on 50, and 1080 is running at 60. So now we're starting to see a little bit of a difference. In the end, yeah, I just think this card is a little smoother, slightly. Again, it's very slight. These are two very powerful, very good cards. So they're not going, you're not going to see a huge jump in performance, just a slight jump. That's going to be the moral of the story with it. Now pretty soon we'll be doing a full review of this airport on the FSElite channel, so look out for that in the next coming weeks. Again, at last, we're going to bump everything up here to full and just see how it runs. You generally would never run Prepar3D like this. You're going to need to tweak things to get it stable, but just for the sake of this test, we're just going to bump those things up. We don't need the airline traffic, road vehicles, or drop that a little bit. And here we go. Getting 30 out of the Titan X and about 25 from the 1080. Now the Titan X has dropped to 25 as well. .1080's beating it by about 4 frames per second right now. Down to 22 on the Titan X, down and up to 25 on the 1080 on the right there. Both getting now we're getting 22 and 26, so it seems like it's averaging 4 frames per second better on the 1080 over the Titan X. .25 to 22 right now. So yeah, 3 or 4 frames, which is kind of what I expected going into this. That you know, it would only be about that much of an improvement. But so far, I'm happy with it, even though it's a small improvement. You know. Just basically swapping this out for the Titan X. But like I said, that's just how the market's going to go. If you can unload the Titan X now, pick up one of these. Just my opinion. I mean, you don't have to do that. I just think it's somewhat of a good idea. This 1080 Ti should hold up for a while. For at least the next 2 graphics cards. Sometimes the next one Nvidia puts out doesn't always beat their best one. It took a couple years to beat the Titan X now, finally with this, and it just barely beats it. So you gotta keep that in mind. Right now we're getting 23 to 26. So yeah, it's about 3 frames better. But interesting to see a test like this. I hadn't seen anybody do one of these yet with Prepar3D, which is super heavy on the graphics card and CPU. Once we get, excuse me, once we get 64-bit, we might have some pretty good performance out of these. But still, looking at the scenery down there, bottom right, farming, 1080 looks much smoother. Could probably just tweak the a few things, actually the special effects, and get 30 frames out of it. With all the other things up at max. But alright guys, this is going to do it for the benchmark. Hope this helps you in some way decide whether you want to make the jump to the 1080 Ti. Thanks for watching, guys.